Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. Doing business in life with a purpose, serving others, and yes, achieving success. I'm your host, Steve Ramona, and we created this show for you to want everyone to be motivated, inspired, and educated to make an impact in your world. Not the world, but in your world. My guest is going to be incredible today. Talking before the show, he's got some great tips and some great inspiration he's going to share. But while he's talking, I want you to think about who you're going to serve today. And what impact will you create with that service? And reach out to me and send me an email. I'd love to hear what you're doing. I want to thank my sponsor, pitchdb.com. Be a guest on over 3 million podcasts. Speak at over 11,000 conferences and much, much more. Build your thought leader platform with incredible opportunities to show who you are. With that being said, my guest is from the Silicon Valley, where I live. People that are listening that know me, grew up here, I still am here. But we're the Silicon Valley, the wafer, Silicon, if you don't know, technology. And I'm not going to ask him on the show, but I know he's doing quite well. He decided to leave because of what he learned, and now he can help others outside the technology space. Jim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Technology to life coaching. That is a big bridge to cross. Why?
Yes, it is a big bridge. Well, I was fortunate in that as I grew up, both through college and Navy and then Silicon Valley, is people kept exposing me to good solutions. And I call them point solutions because they didn't solve every problem I had. But net, when you put them all together, and you use them all in your personal life, although they were intended for business and operations, you actually have a tool set that's very strong. So it has helped guide my transition from job to job in Silicon Valley, ultimately to being a small and medium business consultant. And it has guided my successes. It has helped me recoup from unexpected events like a death in the family, a move I had to undertake, things like that we don't always think that far ahead about. So I came to the conclusion after going to semi-retirement that why should I hold all that stuff under wraps and keep it just for Jim Boswell? Why don't I offer it to anyone that's interested? Because quite frankly, when you look at the self-help market, most of them are point solutions. Now, to give you an analogy, if you've got a whole body, you and I both do, and everybody else does too. If we've got a boo-boo on our finger, we probably go to our GP, right? If we've got cancer, we're going to wind up going to a surgeon and or a oncologist, okay? But neither one of those people look at your body as a whole. Only the people that look at holistic medicine or MDs who treat in that fashion. Well, point solutions are like the guy who fixes your finger, or he's the oncologist, but he's not the guy the oncologist is not looking at your heart. He's not looking at your orthopedics. So by analogy, what it is that the effort of lifelong fulfillment is to put all that in a package with a process that I didn't invent it. I'm a user just like everybody else, but authoritative sources have created that process. And then when we wrap in the latest point solutions, say for decluttering, getting grit in your life, learning to bounce back and be resilient in your own life. Those are point solutions. So that was our intent. And so we introduced that and we created a podcast called Vision and Action Live around that, where part of it's training and part of it's an interview similar to the one we're having right here, right now.
Yeah. And what's the name again so people can get it?
Vision in Action Live.
I like that. That's it has movements. It just has movement. It's a great name.
Exactly.
So
It's kind of a call to action in some
yeah,
cases.
exactly. It's like I'm going to do something, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned lifelong fulfillment. I want to dive deeper into that. What does that look like, even more so, somebody listening, when you say, Steve, I'm going to help you achieve lifelong fulfillment?
Well, okay. Lifelong fulfillment, the tool set, and it's a set of tools that you use throughout your life to varying degrees. So let's acknowledge that, a 22-year-old in college or, working already has a different agenda than, say, a 45-year-old. A 45-year-old has a totally different agenda than, say, someone who's at 65 and thinking about retirement. But what we call it lifetime is because at every stage along the life, you need to be building skills in different ways. Now, all of us understand building skills in a area that we enjoy that also will produce a career that will be viable. So we can live a life we want, perhaps have a family, live in a state we want to live in, enjoy the lives we've inherited. So what the whole lifelong fulfillment process is, it teaches us that number one is it's just not your main focus. It's things like mathematics and psychology and history and economics, both at a global level and also at a personal level, will really have a major impact on how you live your life and the capabilities you can bring to it. Now, you can't learn that all at once. So the other flip side of lifelong is going to take you start with basics, then you go to grad school of life, right? And then you become a PhD of life as all of your skills come into play. And this is unfortunately something we don't teach. It's not taught in high school. You get bits and pieces of it in college. Unless you're on the psychology track, I don't think you ever get exposed to this.
Yeah.
And as we all know, most disciplines like that in schools are siloed. They're not interconnected so that they operate as a whole. So personal economics is not something we study so as to inform our spending habits, our earning requirements, and our investments. Well, you still need that. At least from my standpoint, it really helped me to wrap my head around that whole situation. So that's the idea behind it. So the goals at, let's say at 22, you're just trying your wings out. You're validating your upbringing, things that you've been told that are important. You're probably wanting to put those on a more factual foundation. You're exercising physically and mentally and trying to test your limits. You're trying to increase your independence and so forth, and you're getting started. Probably first time you're going to have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job.
Yep.
By the time you're 45, you may have already made decisions along, well, I want to get married, I want to have a family, I want to buy a house, I want to live a certain place, and so on. Your agendas are more mature, but now you're beginning to think about, well, I've got another 20 years here, so what am I going to do so that when I hit 65, I have options? Not that I have to decide those options today.
Yeah.
But I want the ability to have those options. Well, if you don't know something about psychology, you don't know something about personal health care, you don't know anything about the longevity of American citizens, the mean longevity that we have, then you don't know how to plan. If you don't understand a personal income statement, you don't know how to control expenses, you don't know what kind of income you need to be targeting. And so what the book does is hit every one of these disciplines and then tells you how to brainstorm from a knowledge of your personality profile all the way through what you think you want. And that would be unconstrained by anything, money, time, or whatever. And then you'd start dealing with constraints. and you identify things you don't know that you need to learn. You identify roadblocks that you may or may not be able to get past, and you start dealing with it and plan. You actually get yourself an action plan for that period in your life. It might last 5 years, it might last 10. The point is, it's reiterative, and you reintegrate the good parts. And so you're building a core competency of things that make you fulfilled. You set the goals, you did the task, and when you measure those, you're happy with them or you're not. And it's okay not to be, because we all make mistakes and change happens, but then you retune your plan and you keep on going. And it's very powerful. If you know about Maslow's hierarchy, which is a very basic concept, most people can reach happy simply by being around. They don't have to have a huge planning process, and they don't need to know themselves in as quite the depth, because a lot of it's based on emotions. It's a good time by going to a movie, or you go camping, or you go on vacation with your family. There's not a lot of exercise that you have to do to succeed at that. But to get to fulfillment implies that you want something beyond just being happy. You want something that takes effort. You want something that's important to you, that really feeds your soul. And when I say soul, I mean your authentic soul, unencumbered by prejudice, unencumbered by acculturation that you may have acquired as a young person, so that you're really responding to, what does my heart want, my authentic heart, and what do I need to do to get there?
It's powerful, because my dad used to tell me, don't recreate the wheel. And you mentioned that earlier. This is stuff that you learn. You didn't create, which is great. You just want to share Mr. Boswell's information to the world to help them grow. What is life coaching mean to you?
It's imparting the best in class solutions that we can to those that are interested. And, I know, because this is a nonfiction book in the self-help arena, there is a pretty steady demand for this, particularly among women. For instance, self-help books, 2/3 of the ones that are bought by women. So it is very much a thing of our age. And helping those folks find the point solutions is not so important. There's a lot of them out there. I don't need to replicate that. What I try and do is help people tie all of that stuff together and learn how to manage the process and to feed back and set the next set of goals. So that's what we do. To do that on an ongoing basis, in the old days, you'd just publish a book, or you'd be a professor or something like that. Well, I'm none of those and didn't do that. I'm doing it now. So the venue here is that we promote the book's tenets, its process, and everything on Vision in Action Live. And I have a full website with all the reference materials. So if you have an issue about, hey, I don't know psychologically what my type is, I don't know what would necessarily make me happy, we have direct rifle shot authoritative sources that you can do. Many of them are online tools. And if you're not a book reader, we have podcasts to substitute in many cases for those little point solutions that you want to put in your toolkit, right? Your lifestyle toolkit. And so we do podcasts once a week, similar to yourself, where we do some instruction, and then we have an authoritative point resource person. They might be a coach, they might be a PhD at the university, but it's one of the disciplines that you may not be focused on, but will really help you later down the road. Did that
Life, it did extremely well. And I've talked to all life coaches, one of the best answers I've had. And it doesn't mean they're wrong. It's, you got to go with you, because life coaching is very general. It can go so many ways. But the one thing I believe, and I know we have this since COVID, the balance of business and life. What's your bridge for that? What do you think about that?
Well, I've been balanced and unbalanced and everything in between. And I think, unfortunately, that's part of the human condition. what I try to do to answer the balance question is, if I know what I want, let's say I know 10 things that I want, very, very, really heartfelt, then I can't do them all. So the Pareto rule saves us, because Pareto says 20% of those 10 things should deliver about 80% of psychic income or monetary income or whatever. I do not have to do all 10 perfectly, right?
Yep.
And in addition, if I master the first 2 out of 10, which is the 20%, then I can start looking at the next 2 out of 10. And so I can build success on success, and I can stay focused, so that focusing helps me balance things. It helps me, for instance, if family is high on the list, say it's number 2, maybe I'm a careerist. I want my career to be first. Or maybe I want to flip it and my family's first, my career is second. Okay, that's the 20% out of 10, and that's where I'm going to put my efforts. If I'm successful, I'll get the appropriate indicators, right? We'll have a happy home life. We'll do things together. I will be investing a good bit of my time there. So if that's the case, I don't want to take an 80-hour-a-week job, right? Because then I've got conflict with priority 2. So there's some other mathematical concepts that I like to quote also. So return on an investment, of course, is a financial concept, but from a personal standpoint, I think it's really good to understand the actual way that works for us individuals. So for instance, when you're looking for a raise, do you want the 10% cost of living raise every 3 years? Or do you want to go take a gamble on another company that'll give you a 50% raise? If you got your toolkit ready, you can do the second, no matter how daunting that actually happens to be. So those are those. The other one is, time is an issue. We're only here for so long. If it's a really long time to results, sometimes the ROI may be great, but the waiting time is a deal killer. So you have to think about that also. So I think when you start thinking in those terms, it helps you manage balance. And sure, there's emotional content to that and other techniques you want to bring to the table. But if you don't have a reference point, you don't really know what your priorities are and what your wants are, it's really hard. You're kind of gambling that your gut is telling you the right thing. And it gets even more complicated when you have a spouse or a partner where they have a different character and they have different goals. And so you've got to deal with them to find that intersection that's comfortable for the two of you, right?
Yeah, that's well said. That's very well said. You've called your book a self-help book, personal development book. What do you feel makes your book different than some of the other books out there that do that?
Well, many of the other books out there they're big on inspiration, they're big on motivation, right? And they're very catchily titled. And they usually have a number of things that they say are important. So, they might say the key to happiness is these 8 little items, right? What they tend to lack is a process for engaging it or prioritizing it amongst all the other demands on your time, both for professional development and your top priorities for your life. So what we focus on doing is respecting the point solutions. There's none bad out there, but there's a lot of them that have an issue about getting me motivated and then frustrated because I don't know how to do what you're telling me in the book. You tell me all this good stuff, but how do I make a plan out of that? How do I do it? How do I integrate that into my life as my life stands? Well, that takes planning, that takes thought, it takes some process. And unfortunately, a lot of the self-help out there seems to be that way. Case in point, The How of Happiness by Dr. Lee Mirsky. It tells you in gory detail what happiness is about. She doesn't quote Maslow's hierarchy, which explains it and explains happiness versus fulfillment. And happiness frequently gets used as a catch-all phrase, as opposed to the rich life or, fulfillment. So the end result is, yes, she's got a great book. It's a great motivator. It's a great inspiration. But I find, for me at least, it lacks that implementation part. And so what we do at Lifelong Fulfillment is focus on implementation. In other words, we tell you the environment you're dealing with, things like a lot of white noise in our environment, accelerating information that we have struggled to manage for ourselves individually and collectively. We talk about, mathematics on a personal basis, what you should be looking for. We talk about basic personal economics. So if you don't know it, you'll know it by the time you're done. And then we walk you through a process where we help you understand psychologically who you are. You actually take, it's 5 tests, 5 different tests. Myers-Briggs is one of them. Positive psychology is another. DISC is another. We do a risk assessment. So by the time you're done with those 5, you really know who you are and you mostly know what you want. At that point, you can look at inventory your positive, what you want, what you don't want, what makes you happy, and identify what your goals are. So you go into a brainstorming mode where you're not judging it for constraints. And then you prioritize that. Again, Pareto coming into the play because perfection's the enemy.
Yeah.
And you finally take that and then you deal with the constraints, you deal with timelines, you deal with an action plan. And it's no different actually than what you see in business, although it looks different because it's personal. And then you start executing on the plan. And it does mean you got to become a lifelong learner. You have to go investigate things that are not in your wheelhouse. And it takes a little bit of bravery. But to be frank, we have a narrative section that actually talks about people that encounter changes in their lives that they have to manage, whether it's self-imposed or accidental. And we show in the book that if you've got these kind of tools in your bag, it's possible.
Powerful because you're educating. You're just not saying, hey, be happy. Here's how. You show people how to be the fulfillment, which you're right, is a game changer. Yeah. And that's all you can do. It's going to take that person to be accountable to do the action. And I love what you said about the 10 out of 2, take 2 out of the 10. Because I tell people all the time when I mentor and business people, 1% every day. Don't try to do 50%. You'll burn out so fast because you're like, Steve, and that's why I like that. I think that's really good. We're right on the end here. I can't believe time flew by. What's one thing you want to leave the audience from your perspective that could really help them? You've learned over these years.
I think that many of us get stuck, and even if we don't know we're stuck, we can be, and that there's an answer for it. And it's not your traditional answer, and it's not hollow inspiration or anything like that. There is a process. Even if the main thing is you need to engage yourself. You need to commit to doing something for yourself. And most of us are selfish anyway, so this is pretty easy to do, right? And the only mistake you can make is do nothing. Literally. If you do nothing, and the book has so much, even if you do part of it right, you're going to be very well off relative to your peers, your family, who don't know about it and don't even care.
Yeah, I like that. What's the name of the books again? Let's go over those real quick.
Okay, it's called Lifelong Fulfillment, and you can go to lifelongfulfillment.com to buy it, or you can buy it on Amazon. Vision in Action Live is also streamed off of that same website. So everything's there. All the reference materials there. We have newsletters. We've got FAQs, and I'm eager to help anybody who has a new question on their journey.
I like that. And that's what I feel from you. And I like that. And that's what a good life coach, good business coach should do, is help people. And if they're a fit as a client, they're a fit. If not, at least you've helped them. How can people get a hold of you?
I would say through the website,
Okay.
Jim at lifelongfulfillment.com will get me on email. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so I'm pretty accessible, and pretty much it's a day-to-day business with me. So I'm pretty prompt about responding.
Yeah, then I'll get that. I'll put that in the show notes too, so you can have access to it. Again, Jim, thank you so much. This has been incredible. I've just loved this show. I've learned so much. When I got a full pad here, I got to go over. Hope you guys have a full pad too. Use the reverse and forward buttons. I say this in my podcast because that's what I love about them is the platform can make you learn if there's a piece of this that Jim's talking about, save it, clip it, or just go back and listen to that 8 to 15 minutes or 8 to 5, 8 to 10 minutes, whatever that may be. We would love, me and Jim would love for you to watch the whole show or listen to the whole show. But if 5 or 6, 7 segment can help you and change your life, we'd be super happy. If you have questions, reach out to him too. Like he said, he's open to any questions you might have. And I want you to not forget about my TV show, which is Fridays at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern. Together We Serve. It's on Roku and Apple and Samsung and like all those streaming services. And doing business with a servant's heart, it's a message I want to get out. You can see Jim is an absolute servant. He's out there to help. He should be retired, living in Hawaii, but no, he wants to go out and help other people, which I love. He's a true servant's heart. But we have hoodies and hats and t-shirts you can wear to share that message. And as I always say, I want to thank you. Me and Jim, thank you for listening and watching this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Thank you all.